Today we're visiting Sonny Wong, a painter and graphic designer known for his bold, colorful style. I'm David Ferney, and you're watching Studio Space.
You know, I try to put a lot of little things, even if it's not even for other people or maybe for people to discover, like that there's Easter eggs to discover. And you know, if there was a theme, I'd throw in as many little things as I could, which maybe only 4 or 5 people caught. You know, never have to explain it, never anything, but they're just there for someone to find later.
Hey, Sonny, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, David, for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Just tell us, what is the Sonny Wong style?
The Sonny Wong style is, it's an evolution of the teenage artist that have been all the way till almost 50 now. It's influenced by Hanna-Barbera cartoons, Super Friends, to manga, to ninja movies, to graffiti, to learning about fine art, and just meshing that all together.
You were the Artist of the Year, North Coast Journal, 2019, really recently, and some great articles on you. So there's such a wealth of information and work out there. So it's been really fun to get exposed to it and learn more about it. You started out doing a lot of graffiti in your younger years too.
I was introduced to graffiti in the early 90s, fell in love with it. I'd already been somewhat enthralled with it, even just from going to San Francisco with my mom as a child and just looking out the windows, driving around, just not even understanding what it was until I started paying attention and noticing, oh, that's the same person. They're all over the place. There's also early movies like Wild Style and Style Wars, which are like early documentaries on New York graffiti, and just fell in love with the idea of it. You know, I was also a skateboarder, so I was always, that's kind of rebellious. Graffiti was rebellious, kind of went hand in hand.
Yeah. You can definitely see how it's influenced the evolution of your work, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, even in my plein air paintings, I can see forms that I'm like, oh, that would be a cooler shape if it was like shaped like an S or shaped like this part of a letter. So it definitely is infused in all my
Foundation,
stuff.
Yeah. Foundational. Now you work in a lot of different mediums. Is there any favorites that you like or your real go-to?
Well, I wouldn't say that I really have a favorite, but there's definitely times that if I'm going through that, I will lean on one or the other. My go-to is pen and ink drawing, and that's really just like in my personal art journal, which I call a black book. I like block printing, so there'll be a month or two every year where I'll just dive into a print. Painting is always something I have going on in the background. They all, to me, are all kind of the same thing though, an expression of the same vision, just different medium. So like this piece right here, there's a finished piece underneath it, and I covered it with a gloss. Normally when I'm painting, I don't have a gloss on it because you get that really high reflection of the light. So I did this painting, I got it all glossed up, and I just didn't like it. So I was like, so I started doing these shapes on top of it.
Oh, wow.
It was just too wild. The geometry kind of calms it back down.
Yeah, and it like pulls you into the layers of it too.
To the chaos in the back.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a new thing I've been on, this more abstract stuff. Because a lot of my stuff is just cartoony.
Right, bold lines, bold colors.
It gives me a chance to just be free and create without having to, no form, no line style. Well, I mean, I still do line style, but it's just non-constrictive. So, yeah. And these things I kind of look at like they're like these weird outer space or inner space neon light kind of things. And I'm not trying to be too neat. Kind of gives them like they're sparking off some sort of electric.
Yeah, I like the way the yellows do that a lot.
Yeah, I've been playing with this 2 different colors, the red and the blues. And I don't know, we didn't talk about this, but I'm colorblind red and green, so.
Yeah, I didn't mention, I read that somewhere or saw it in an interview and I was like, wow, he's colorblind because his stuff is so color bold.
I think I might make up for it because of that, you know. As far as I'm concerned, I see colors just fine. I can tell red, I can tell green, but I think when I like to use them a lot together because because to me it makes it seem more vibrant, or maybe it ends up more vibrant. As a kid, my dad had a putting green in our backyard, and I had this little cap gun that would eject these little red cylinders, and they would land on the putting green, and I could play with cap gun all I wanted as long as I picked up those cylinders. And I would, but I would miss tons of them.
Because you couldn't.
And my dad would be like, what are you doing? Like, you don't want to play with this out here? And I'd have to get really close, and then I could see it, the way red and green vibrate with the way the light, the waveform is very similar. And so for me, they will blur together unless they're like super bold next to each other. Yeah, it's strange. I kind of knew I was colorblind like that, but it was never diagnosed until I used to work at Pacific Lumber Company, PL, and I was training to be a grader, and they test you for color blindness, and that's where I found out for real.
Were you a big drawing sketcher as a kid? What were some of your earliest memories of art as a kid?
I definitely have been drawing since I was a little kid. Like I said, my grandmother was an artist. My mom in her youth was an artist, and I'd seen her sketchbooks, but I always drew. And if it was from Calvin and Hobbes to Garfield to Conan drawings, I always had something going on. I used to get timeouts, and the timeout would be sit down and draw something, and it would often be something like the Golden Gate Bridge, or if we were just in San Francisco, Coit Tower, or anything to make me just sit down and be quiet for a second and chill. And it wasn't really a punishment to me. I didn't mind it.
It was like, get his focus on something productive.
Totally.
Yeah. I also discovered one of your other side creative things that you've done a lot of over the years is your music, which I thought was really cool. And you recently had a new release of a project that you've been working on, and some different diverse musical partnerships. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, that also kind of goes hand in hand with graffiti. So graffiti is one of the 4 pillars of hip hop, and hip hop is graffiti, DJing, breakdancing, and rapping. And so I try to dabble in all of those things. So what you're alluding to is I've been a rapper, and I've had a rap crew since the 90s, and we've put out our music independently. Recorded it all of ourselves, engineered it ourselves, learned how to distribute it independently. And so yeah, my rap crew's the Dirty Rats. We've been around Humboldt County for 20-something years now, put out, I think, 18 albums. It really is just another expression of my art.
I hear you calling, but I ain't got the room. Only one sarcophagus can floss in this tomb, and that's mine. Mr. Third Eye Blind, Mr. Float out the picture like you full on frying. I drop in like a hawk, knock a sparrow out the sky. You can watch a downward spiral get reflected in my eye.
You know, if there was a audio version of what I do, that's what it is.
You did a ton of magazine covers for the Savage Henry magazine. I talked with Chris Durant, who is the publisher of the magazine, who said, oh yeah, I met him originally doing music, hip hop stuff together, and then started the magazine. I was like, hey, let's bring in Sonny.
Yeah, I mean, literally I remember in the back of the jambalaya, Chris and his crew was called the Republican Duck Hunters, and he was opening for us. We were in the back just talking about art, and he had this magazine before Savage Henry. We started talking about like, hey, you want to do the covers for this? Now that was at a rap show, and he was pitching the idea of Savage Henry, and we were both Hunter S. Thompson fans, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Let's do this. And he had an idea for a pilot issue that he was going to get published, and then we'd shop it around and see if they could get advertisers, and that was in late 2009, early 2010, and yeah, I did the next 100 covers, one a month. Which, yeah, it makes months go by real quick.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, you can look at a lot of them online, and I loved how he had such specific themes each month that you really ran with. He said Sonny's one of the hardest working artists in Humboldt County. He said he's super chill, super professional, and he always had something in his back pocket, ready to go.
Yeah, I've got to say, you know, doing the thing for Savage Henry definitely helped me as a graphic designer, because that is a thing for for artists, to procrastinate, to not get things on time.
Right,
and
you had a deadline.
I did have a deadline, and I have to say though, often, you know, it's like summertime, it's the month, and my wife wants to go camping, we gotta go camping. I'll be inking those covers with a lantern at nighttime, coming home the next day, scanning it and coloring it and getting it crisp, because, you know, I'd procrastinate too, but I always try to hit the deadlines.
It was kind of a hybrid of mediums. you'd sketch it out and rough line it, and then
No, I do the ink, full-on final version of the ink, and then scan it. So yeah, I would draw it on paper with pencil, go over it with ink, erase all the pencil, get home, or if I drew it at home, throw it on the scanner, scan it in, Photoshop, and do all the color in Photoshop. Drop the logo and type from Illustrator into Photoshop. And that's what I already learned how to do this. The Savage Henry just made me really good at it.
I went out and looked at some of your mural work. I love the ship in a bottle in Eureka is really great. How do you feel about doing big outdoor stuff like that? Are you going to do more? Is there other stuff?
Most definitely. I mean, that one's a good example of my evolution from graffiti was writing a name on the wall. To the murals, easy, it's just I don't use the letters, but I just put myself on there instead. So it was almost kind of the same idea. Like I've already been doing big graffiti murals, and then to do an art mural that was just, you know, take the letters out and just have the characters, it felt natural. And yes, I'd like to do more. It's a balance because you have to have a time to do it. And so if you have a job and
it's not quick
quick
fix, yeah.
It's easier to fit in doing canvases at nighttime in my garage right now, but at the same time, I always loved painting big and in public places.
One of the other things I found out that you like to do as well is outdoor plein air. Can you tell us a little bit about what appeals to you in that form of?
Yeah, well, again, that's another balance that goes from urban style art, cartoon style art, or narrative art, where I can just go out anywhere in Humboldt County, and there's so many beautiful places and different types of scenery where, you know, you sit there, it's quiet. I don't put headphones in, I just listen to birds and the wind. It's almost meditative. And again, I never was taught any style for that, so it's just go out there and be free and just have fun, really what it comes down to, especially when the weather's good.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of times where the wind blows and easels are falling over and paint's going everywhere, and it's okay. That's not as relaxing.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part.
Have you done any recently of that? Or?
The last time I did a plein air painting was probably about 2 months ago. A buddy of mine, Sean Griggs, had built me a plein air palette setup, which he's been developing for the last couple of years to fit in a backpack, and it's awesome. I get it out and show you if you want to. It's got these magnets, so it holds all your canvas down. It's got a magnet bottom, so it holds a paint tray, and it sits on the tripod. So yeah, it was about 2 months ago I got this.
Oh, right on. Yeah, great. Well, it's been super great finding out more about your work and meeting you and hanging out. Really appreciate it. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Right.